Roll call.
All right, starting the roll call with Chair Oscar Leeser, Vice Chair Senator Blanco, Rep. Canales, Mayor Ramon Cano, Senator Joseph Cervantes, Representative Rudy Cruz, Aaron Chavarria, Representative Mary Gonzalez, Representative Cassandra Hernandez, Ivette Hernandez, Commissioner Ileana Holguín, Representative Willie Madrid, Alderman Walter Miller, Representative Joe Moody,
Present.
Representative Eddie Morales,
Present.
Mo Mobed, Mayor Murillo, Representative Claudia Ordaz, Representative Lina Ortega, Norma Palacios, Mayor Javier Perea, Mayor Rachel Quintana, Mayor Isela Reyes, Sam Rodriguez, Representative Isabel Salcido, Judge Samaniego, Ellen Smythe, Mayor Anthony Turner, Tomas Trevino, and City Manager Kerry Weston. Thank you. So we do have quorum.
Thank you. We'll move into open comment period. Do we have anyone signed up?
No open comment.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item 1.
All right, item 1, discussion and action to consider approval of the minutes of the April 19, 2024 TPB meeting.
Motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Right.
Item 2?
All right, Chair, items 2, 3, and 4 are letters of support. I can read them into the record, and we have presentations, but if you, for the sake of time, we can skip those if you want. So item 2 is consider authorizing the executive director to sign a letter of support for the County of El Paso application for the fiscal year 2025 Community Project Funding Program for the Favens Airport right-of-way acquisition project. Then item 3 is to consider authorizing the executive director to sign a letter of support for the City of El Paso application for the fiscal year 2024 Federal Railroad Administration Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements, CRISI grant for the Zaragoza Rail Grade Separation Project. And 4, consider authorizing the executive director to sign a letter of support for the City of El Paso application for the fiscal year 2023 Federal Highway Administration Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program grant for the Stanton, Texas Active Transportation Project Development Study Project. And again, we have presentations we can discuss, but staff recommends approval of all 3. These are really good projects that we support.
I would move to approve items 2, 3, and 4. 3, 4, and 5.
No, I'm sorry, it's items 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed.
Thank you. All right, items 5 and 6 are related. Let me read them into the record, and I'll give you a brief overview on each. Item 5 is consider approval of amendments to the Transportation Policy Board bylaws to add South Central Regional Transit District to the Transportation Project Advisory Committee as a voting member entity and to make text amendments to Article 3 TPB membership to clarify rules on the composition of the board. And item number 6 is to consider authorizing the executive director to sign a memorandum of understanding between El Paso MPO, New Mexico Department of Transportation, and South Central Regional Transit District to make provision for cooperative transportation and transit activities in the metropolitan planning area. So in your backup in the summary sheets, there was a brief discussion on why we're doing this. It all started with a recommendation from the Federal Highway Administration to enter into an agreement for transit planning coordination activities in the state of New Mexico between the MPO, New Mexico DOT, and South Central Regional Transit District. As you know, South Central is a relatively new entity that is now providing services that include the MPO region. So this agreement, which is item number 6, mirrors the agreement that we've had for many years on the Texas side with TxDOT, Sun Metro, and the MPO. And really is, to coordinate planning and other activities between the entities. So as a result of discussing that item, South Central requested to have more of a role within the MPO. So we agreed that giving them a seat in the TPAC, in our technical committee, would be the appropriate thing to do. And they all agreed. So we ran the idea of adding TPAC, adding South Central to TPAC through the TPAC itself, and they recommended, they thought it was a good idea. We ran it through the executive committee, given that we need to amend the bylaws. So that's the reason for item number 5, to amend the bylaws to add South Central to the TPAC. The other item, which is part of number 5, is just striking one sentence in paragraph number 3 that was confusing. That is in your backup. So unless you have any actions, we recommend approval of items 5 and 6.
Any discussion? Sure.
Motion to approve.
We have a second? Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion's passed.
Right. Item number 7, consider approval of amendments to the RMS 2050 MTP and RMS 2023-2026 TIP to program transit projects from South Central Regional Transit District. A, program the preventive maintenance fiscal year 24 5307 project using FTA 5307 funds in fiscal year 2024. B, program the pavement resurfacing fiscal year 24 5307 project using FTA 5307 funds in fiscal year 2024. C, program the JARC fiscal year 24 5307 project using FTA 5307 funds in fiscal year 2024. D, program the operating assistance fiscal year 24 5307 project using FTA 5307 funds in fiscal year 2024. E, program the maintenance facility equipment fiscal year 24 5307 project using FTA 5307 funds in fiscal year 2024. And F, program the security fencing fiscal year 24 5307 project using FTA 5307 funds in fiscal year 2024. Again, these are pretty straightforward additions to the TIP, all related to South Central 5307 funds. We're ready to give you a brief presentation if you so desire.
We have a motion.
So move.
Motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, moving to item number 8. Considering authorizing the executive director to execute task order number 3 with the El Paso MPO General Planning Consultant for development of a regional safety action plan for an amount not to exceed $729,888.56. Again, as background, we're finally getting close to initiating the safety action plan development, which is the grant that we received more than a year ago from the SS4A program. So last month we brought to you, or maybe a couple months ago, all the series of agreements between the MPO, Federal Highway, and also the agreements to acquire the match with the RMA. And again, thank you so much to the county for providing the match to the federal grant. So this is a final step to issue the task order to the consultant so they can actually begin the work. The task order is in your backup, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions? Motion. Motion to approve. We have a second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
All right, item number 9 is consider approval of the second amendment to the El Paso MPO fiscal year 2024-2025 Unified Planning Work Program, UPWP, to add reference to the San Elizario Transportation Needs Assessment Project and to add TCEQ Rider 7 funding to funding summary tables and subtask descriptions as applicable. Again, these are just amendments to the UPWP to reflect the fact that San Elizario was awarded by this board about a year ago, $400,000 to do a needs assessment study. That's already programmed in the TIP and so on, but again, we got the request from Federal Highway to add it to our UPWP because it really is part of our planning activities. So, we're happy to do that. And the last one was, as you know, as we presented before, the grants that we received from a TCEQ Rider 7 program for ozone and for PM 2.5. That's additional funds, so we need to incorporate that into our UPWP as well. So all the information is in your backup, so happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? We have a motion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Right. All right, item number 10. Consideration of documents associated with the Rider 7 Local Air Quality Statement of Work under Texas Commission of Environmental Quality, TCEQ, contract number 582-2011979. Items A, B, and C, and before I read them into the record, just to let you know that we were requesting to table item C. That's not ready for action, so we'll bring that to you next month. So item 10A is consider approval of task order number 2 between El Paso MPO and TTI for the purchase of cameras for vehicle counting in Ciudad Juarez and monitoring through machine learning technology. B, consider approval of task order number 3 between El Paso MPO and TTI for improving regional emission estimation tools. Again, the information is in your backup, but these two items are actual task orders that we are issuing to our consultants and the team that's actually going to do the work. We are still missing 2 more that we'll bring to you next month. The one for Urban Sim that is doing the land use modeling on the Juarez side, and also the lending agreement, which is item number C, with Colegio de la Frontera, because they're going to be actually taking our equipment and using it in Juarez to collect accounts. So we're just asking right now to approval for the 2 task orders with TTI. And we have, again, a presentation on this if you care to hear more details.
Any discussion? Questions? We have a motion?
Move. Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So that's done with our action items.
That's a
At this point, I think we need a motion to move into executive session. Sergio, to discuss items 1 and executive item number 2.
If Eduardo will read those items into the record, just so the record.
Oh, okay. All right, so the items for executive session, item number 1, Executive Director's Annual Performance Assessment for year 2023, including review and discussion of the Executive Director's Self-Performance Assessment for year 2023. And item 2, Executive Director's Employment Agreement.
And Chair, just also for the record, the board would be moving into executive session pursuant to the Government Code provision 551.074, which allows executive session for the discussion of personnel matters. So now you just need a motion.
So we have a motion. We have a second. Second. I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Yeah, all in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed? Move into executive session.
We'll just wait a few minutes for the room.
That's it. We need a motion.
Move to reconvene into the regular session.
Second.
Okay, it's 10:24. We have a motion and a second to reconvene out of executive session. Okay, consideration of item 10. Sergio, you want to read the?
So now that we're back in open session and there's been a motion made to come out of executive session, 10:25, the motion for the executive item number 1 is a motion to approve the executive director's annual performance assessment for year 2023 as submitted by the executive director.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
The next motion, Chair, coming out of the executive session is on item number 2. And a proposed motion on that would be to approve renewing the executive director's employment agreement for a 1-year period.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Everyone, we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And the third motion coming out of executive session, and Representative Ordaz, do you want to make that motion?
Do you have the link?
It would be, and I can read a proposed motion for you to make. Proposed motion to increase the executive director's base salary by 3%.
So moved.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. No. 2 nays. Motion passes.
You can now move on to your reports in.
All right, thank you very much. All right, moving on to reports and discussion. Item number 11, update on the Texas El Paso District Mobility Projects Funding Proposal for inclusion in the fiscal year 2025 Unified Transportation Program. So we have Tomas Trevino here as a presenter, but I'll just make some brief comments on this. This is related to the proposal that was submitted and approved by the board and submitted to TxDOT last month regarding the funding of our projects, our priority projects. So there's been some adjustments here. The district came back and did some revisions to the cost estimate for downtown 10, and they feel that with a little bit less funding, we can still do what we intended, what the district and the MPO intends to do, which is do phase 1 of the downtown 10 project, and at the same time continue with the funding for phase 2 of the Borderland Expressway. So there is some adjustments on that, and so it's just to let you all know that this is what's coming on. Any questions? So happy to answer.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 12 is update on TxDOT Highway Emergency Response Operator Hero Program. And here we have a tag team, Eddie Perales and Rodolfo Pino from TxDOT.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rudy Pino. I'm a transportation engineer with the Texas Department of Transportation. So today I'm here to talk to you all about our HERO program. Just give you a status and update on the program and just remind everybody how great the program is. I don't know if we can pull up the PowerPoint. All right, so we're gonna go just quickly, we're gonna show a video. So it's about a minute long, a little bit more than a minute. And then we'll go into some of the public outreach that we've received about the program and go into some of the HERO stats and highlights, and then we'll wrap it up with some of the budget of the program and what's next. So here's the video.
While many people are usually having lunch at noon, members of the TxDOT HERO team are busy preparing their trucks, testing out equipment, and making sure all is in check for their afternoon shift on our roadways. The roadside champions roll out their patrol units equipped and ready to assist stranded motorists and first responders on crash sites and emergencies every day. The TxDOT El Paso District launched the Highway Emergency Response Operator Program back in June of 2020. It's aimed at improving safety for stranded motorists and first responders. The program has its own dispatchers and receives additional vigilance from our team at the Transvista Center, who keep watch via our camera system. The El Paso Hero Fleet has also been instrumental in severe weather response and critical to emergency responders.
The Heroes Unit is an invaluable asset for the El Paso Police Department, providing crucial support in ensuring the safety of police officers during their investigations of traffic crashes at the interstate.
Hero vehicles are equipped with digital message signs and cameras that can send live images back to help with incident management. By reducing the risk of secondary crashes through its efforts, the program helps to make El Paso roadways a safer place to travel. Stranded motorists can call 790-HERO or 4376 for assistance. You'll want to save that number.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about the public outreach or the public feedback we get for the program. I mean, so it's a really great program. You know, we have different platforms that available to get these comments, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. So I just wanted to give you an overview of the kind of comments that we get for the program. And I'm going to walk over there because I can't see the screen. This gentleman right here, just when I thought it was all dark, I saw the flashing lights of hope. It was the most efficient, stress-free roadside tire change I've ever experienced. Extremely great for the Hero program. Alvarado is more than just a roadside assistant operator. He is a true hero. Our insurance was going to take about 2 hours for them to get some help. Amazing hero, definitely saved our day. Literally, angels on the road. I aspire to be a hero when I grow up. Thank you, real life heroes. See, this is good taxpayer money well spent. And they are gods and really are heroes. So, I mean, we get hundreds of these comments. I mean, they're all positive. I don't think we have any other program that has these type of comments. So, and I think it's because, you know, whenever you break down or you're stranded on a high speed, you know, access controlled highway, when you have vehicles going at 60, 70 miles per hour right next to you, it's a scary situation. People don't know what to do. They panic, and it's understandable. And so when you see the hero truck pull up behind you with the lights, all the equipment they need, and they come and they help you, and it's free of charge. I mean, it's easy to see how these guys are seen as heroes. I mean, you got to think about maybe your mom or your dad out there being stranded, or your grandparents, or even your teenagers. You know, I have a teenage son, and just recently we reviewed a crash on Loop 375 where a young lady ran out of gas and pulled over on the left shoulder of Loop 375 near the Escalante area, and she was hit by a drunk driver. I mean, I don't even want to think about that. I mean, that's my 17-year-old just learning how to drive right now. So having this program in place and available, I think the public expects to have it there, and, you know, and they just really love and appreciate it. So just some quick stats on the program, our operating hours. We work Monday through Friday, 5 to 9, and then we're also on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We do patrol 3 corridors currently, I-10 from Trans Mountain to, I'm sorry, I can't see it. Atlanta Horizon Boulevard. We usually fly pretty much the entire route, and just from almost to Loop 375. Some information on the program. Our fleet has 14 service trucks. We have 2 tow trucks, 12 full-time drivers. We have supervisors and 2 dispatchers in our TMC at Transvista, and 1 hero manager. Currently, there's 2 shifts on Monday through Friday, 2 8-hour shifts, 5 to 1, and then 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. We have 5 trucks in each shift and 1 tow truck. We're one dispatcher in the TMC. On Saturdays and Sundays, we only have one shift, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we have 2 trucks and 1 tow truck and 1 dispatcher. And on the right there, you can see some of the services that we're providing. You know, well, we tow trucks to the nearest safest location. You know, if you run out of gas, we have that. You know, if you have a flat tire, we can service change your tire for you. And we can also clear debris. Now here, we launched the HERO program back in June of 2020. As you can see before that, you know, TxDOT could only assist between 5,000 to 6,000 incidents per year. And as soon as we launched the program, that almost tripled. They went up to 20,000 incidents that we were able to get out there and assist during incidents. Then we went ahead and increased our hours to include Saturday and Sundays. And when we did that, it's about 10% of the incidents occur on Saturday and Sunday. And then our Trans Vista Center, our TMC, they expanded their hours to 24/7. And to date, we've assisted in over 85,000 incidents since the inception of the program. Now, this is some stats on Saturday and Sunday on the weekend. Again, you know, as far as services, I'm sorry. As far as services, you know, we've done about 13% of the services on Saturday and Sunday, and we've again helping about 10% of total incidents on the weekend. One thing I do want to mention on this is clear debris. You know, that's a big deal. Like on the weekend, if nobody's out there to clear that debris, I mean, that could cause a secondary crash. If somebody drops a ladder, they drop a tire, there's some kind of debris out there. And, you know, the last thing you want is a citizen jumping out into the main lanes of I-10 to try to retrieve some item. You know, we really need the heroes. The heroes get out there. They have the truck, they have the flashing lights, they have the traffic control to safely remove this debris. And I think that in itself is a big benefit of having the heroes available on the weekends. So this is all the services that the top 10 services that the heroes provide. The number one service they provide is you know, protection from the scene for PD. I mean, you saw PD on the video. I mean, they really love the hero program. I mean, sometimes the heroes get out there before PD does, and they set up the TCP. They give PD a safe area to work. Here you can see a truck, one of the hero trucks, setting up traffic control for PD to do what they need to do. Here's another image of that. Here you can see somebody's stranded. The heroes are changing the tire. You know, they have all the equipment. I mean, how long does it take us to change a tire? You know, they can get in there. They have the pneumatic gun. They can remove the tire, put a new one, and get you on your way a lot faster. The longer they're out there, the higher the danger of them being out there. You can see here the truck is parked. You see all the traffic control, and it's right next to the travel lane. You can imagine trying to change the tire yourself. I mean, that would be a pretty scary thing to do. Okay, so it's really difficult to quantify the good the HERO program does from a safety perspective. We looked at all the crashes that we've had on these 3 roadways, I-10, Loop 375, and US 54, and those are the yearly crashes. As you can see, they are trending downward. 2020 was the COVID year, so it's the outlying year where we had less crashes. But it is trending slightly downward. And then we looked at crashes involving parked cars on these 3 corridors. And again, that is also trending downward. Now, when you consider that the ADT on these 3 roadways has gone up 14% since 2016, yet, you know, the crashes haven't gone up 14%. So I call that a small win. The other thing too, we did look at all the fatal crashes in the last 3 years on these 3 roadways that involved a stalled car, parked car, and we found 8 fatal crashes that occurred, and they all occurred outside the hours of the HERO program. And now, is that saying that the HERO program would have made a difference? I don't know, but it might have, you know, helped the situation. But unfortunately, they weren't available during those hours. So I know in the video you saw a HERO truck driving through a flooded area. So whenever we have, you know, these weather events, we get everyone involved, you know. And so having the heroes available during these events is an added benefit. I mean, they have a tow truck, they can clear the roadway. Our priority is to get all Tier 1 roadways open and operation as fast as possible, all our hospital routes. And so having the heroes available is another benefit. And then finally, or one of the latest highlights is we did move the headquarters of the heroes. They were initially staged there at our headquarters there off of Gateway West, between the America's Interchange and Eastlake. It was easy to put them in there. We had a tow truck program in the past, so they just moved in there. However, it's not very centralized or located in this new location on 200 North Clark. We had this location, we renovated it, we added some parking to it, and that's where they're housed now. It's very centralized location, and I think it works better for them. And then some status on the program. So, the original contract was executed in June of 2020. That's when the boots hit the ground. It's a 2-year contract with 2 years extensions. The contract ended in March of 2024. So currently, we're trying to procure a new contract. We extended the original one to August of 2024. We feel like we'll have this contract, the new contract in place by August, so there shouldn't be any break in service. So the average cost in 2023 of the program is about $225,000 per month. A yearly cost of between $2.5 to $3 million right now. Of course, that's much higher than the original program, but we did expand the hours of the heroes, and we also included now weekends. So again, identify needs. These are the current hours that we're operating, but we really want to go to 24/7. That's our future goal. And also, we would like to extend our routes. We would like to extend I-10 and US 54 all the way to the state line into the county line. And we would like to include some roadways we don't currently patrol on a regular basis, like Spur 601, the new freeway section under construction on Montana, and Artcraft. So that's all I have for you guys. So.
I have a question. This is all TxDOT funded, correct? Yeah, this comes out of category 7. Which one? It's 1 year.
You want to answer?
Yeah, so in the tip, and I was asking Ann for the details. The board has approved funding this with, I think it's 1 year of category 7, Ann?
Yeah, the funding for this has been approved for category 10 CRP funding for 2025. And then per the ad hoc committee that we set up to program the CRP funds, and you're gonna see this in the November STIP revision. There's going to be a recommendation coming forward to do 2 of the remaining years in the next TIP with CRP, with 2027, I believe it is, coming out of category 7.
So category 7 is what's available to everyone.
Right.
It seems like this would be a safety program. Is there any possibility of getting this funded out of category 6 category 8 or?
Well, let me answer from a safety perspective, this is a really, really good program.
Yeah, it's a really good program.
And when I was part of the statewide safety task force, along with a few MPOs and several districts, throughout the state, there's consensus that this program is really, really good, not just for congestion relief and assisting, motorists and so on, but from a safety perspective, it's really good. Now, as far as qualifying for some of the safety funds from TxDOT or federal funds for that, I'm not sure if that's eligible for it.
No, it's not. Definitely at this time, it's not.
Well, do you want to?
Category. So what we call category 8 safety.
Use the mic. Thank you.
All right, hello. Eduardo Perales, thank you. So what we call category 8 is safety funds has 2 types of funding categories. One is where we look at, and they gotta have crashes related to an actual event that happened. In this case, like we talked about, it's very hard to measure because they're usually assisting a scene, and it's not that they could have actually contributed to the safety of the traveling roadway. So at this time, they're still evaluating it. They hadn't gotten approved any district for any type of safety funds. One of the things that did get approved on the ADA legislative was branding. We're still evaluating and rules. We're gonna have to look at the transportation code and see how we're gonna incorporate those type of branding from the local government as well. San Antonio has Category 7, Category 5, and local governments to their program, which is very similar to the one we have here in El Paso.
Yes, my point being, this seems to be a very successful statewide program, and one of the TxDOT's major concerns is safety, and yet we're continuing to fund this locally. And is there any effort, could we put any effort to get this funded? The local funds are split between all of us.
Right. This is a discussion that we can have, but we have recommended this because when it comes to safety, it really is.
I agree totally.
And this program, benefits everybody, right? This is not benefiting, specifically or exclusively TxDOT, right? This is for all the people that use, the freeways, right? I-10, 54, 375, and so on. So, we have recommended this, and we feel comfortable recommending this because it really, helps everybody, right? If it was something that would exclusively benefit, TxDOT, then it would be a different discussion, I think. But, we have to see it, well, our recommendation has always been to see it more, this is a regional benefit to all of us.
My point is, we're having to take this out of local money, and I think it should come out of state money.
Well, and again, checking with Ann, initially, the request that we got from the district was to fund it with Category 7. And as you were saying, and, we all know that Category 7 is, these are precious dollars that we can use on and off system, and they're very flexible. But we were able to work out with a new carbon reduction program funds, a new category, and be able to use those new funds to fund this so that we can free up or not use our Category 7. But again, it's a obviously a discussion that we can have.
Ortega,
How many-
state appropriations.
How many other communities have this program? How many other cities?
Well, within the state, in Texas, the same program like this funded through the MPOs and local governments. We have Austin, San Antonio, and us, and Houston. Houston does it a little bit different. They get a lot of funding from the local governments, and they run 24/7 operations, and San Antonio as well. So right now it's four districts.
But does the state take that into account when they're funding the various categories of the UTP, the communities that have this safety program? Has that been raised to them to consider that?
Like Eduardo mentioned, I think it's being considered at this time. They're looking at how we can incorporate into the safety funds from the federal government, but it's still not there. I mean, we don't get any funding from safety, any safety dollars for the program. They expect, right, I guess the expectation is to work with the local governments, and because it is a community, like Eduardo mentioned, program. Other than that, we do have the 80-20 split, 20% for TxDOT, and then they need a champion to manage the program. And just, I mean, again, we even provide the building for them and everything. So I mean, that's kind of the share we're putting right now, but they're still looking at that.
So that ask needs to be emphasized to the commission in order to have them recognize their goal has always been safety for a number of years now. And I think it's important for them to be aware in terms of where the funding is coming and how necessary it is in the urban communities especially. So it would be great if there was more state funding, because it doesn't make sense for us to use our precious local dollars when it should be the state responsibility on ending the streak, as they say, of accidents, deaths in the state of Texas.
Correct.
So It's something that I think needs to be worked on.
Yes, ma'am.
Are these TxDOT employees and TxDOT vehicles, or do you contract with another company?
It's a contract. It's a contract, and then we manage through our employees. From our office, we have several employees that dedicated to the program in terms of funding and just managing the overall operation. But mostly it's a contract. All the fleet comes from the contract that's awarded.
Contractor in all the big cities, or is it all different?
Currently, it is for San Antonio and Austin and El Paso, and then Houston, no. Fort Worth, still trying to look at it as well to see if they could get the program running.
But one thing that I do know as part, working with that statewide committee, Dallas-Fort Worth has a very, very complete, comprehensive program, but they have, like 2, 3, or 4 different programs and even telephone numbers, right? And one of the things that they're trying to do is consolidate that, and also at the state level, right? Because have some type of a statewide number, like 511 or 611 or something like that, so that it's a lot easier for motorists to remember that. In the case, I think it's Dallas-Fort Worth, they have, depends on what region within that area, they have different telephone numbers and different providers, and it's not called a HERO program, it's called something else and all that. But the effort at the state level is really trying to rebrand it and make it consistent so that, regardless where you are, you know what number to call. But yeah, but the contracts are by, region by region, right? I think that they were also looking at some point of trying to get a statewide contract to see if there's some economies of scale. But so far, I think the contracts are just local, right?
To Mayor Miller's point, has there been, in these discussions, has there been a push or a conversation about tapping into Category 6 funding, and what is the feedback that y'all are getting from that?
As a matter of fact, when they came down probably last year, Eduardo, about creating the Vision Zero and working with the MPOs as well, I believe it was discussed. I wasn't part of those discussions, but it's statewide. Like I said, they are evaluating, they are looking at it. They just haven't found a way to, how can I say this, measure any type of crashes as maybe clearing the lanes is one that FHWA really looks at, the clearing of the lane. So that's one of the reasons. But our traffic division is definitely working with our commissioners and everything and trying to incorporate this program with safety dollars.
Representative Ortega's point, I mean, the commission, their priority is, of course, safety on our roadways. And these are state roadways too. I mean, one thing if they were, we were doing like a citywide thing or countywide thing, but these are state roadways. So it's hard to compute, I guess, how we can't justify safety dollars. But anyway, that's another discussion.
And one more thing, earlier the board approved the task order to start the safety action plan, which is a regional plan. So one of the things that we will do as part of that work is identify other potential funding sources for all of the different actions. We will our task under the grant is to develop a plan, and based on the plan, then we will peel off individual implementation acts. But obviously, implementation comes with funding. But yeah, I mean, these are ongoing discussions that come at the state level, and I don't disagree with the discussion, right? TxDOT says that safety is their #1 priority, and yet when you look at how the allocation of funds for safety categories,
Right.
sometimes it's not that consistent. But
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank
Item 13.
all right, so item 13 is discussion of the triennial amendment to the El Paso MPO Public Participation Plan. And we have Ann Gallante with a brief presentation.
Good morning. So the purpose of this presentation is to do a couple of things. One is to inform you of the upcoming update to our public participation plan, which we are required to do once every 3 years. Explain what's in our plan now, a couple areas where staff recommends that we make amendments to the document, but then also to see if there are additional things, once we go through it, that, that you also feel we should include. Now, it's, we've been sitting here a while. I'm going to keep this pretty brief. But if we could get the slides. All right, next slide. All right, so here is the background information about just what this document is, which is it contains the adoption public process, the document amendment public process, and then also it lists how we engage with the public in kind of our one-way and our two-way media for public engagement. So what we're going to do this morning is we're going to walk through it a little bit at a very high level. There's going to be the full text or very, very slightly condensed text of each of the areas on the presentation, but I'm not going to necessarily read it to you. I'm just going to go over this, kind of talks about this, and here's the high points. And this, we're having this presentation today because this plan was last amended in 2021. It's 2024, so it's time to do it again. All right, next slide. So if you want to read the entire thing, you can find it on our website. Probably easiest way to do that is under the Get Involved tab. It's under Public Participation Plan. So as I already kind of went over what's in it, but that's the list specifically. So we're going to go over a few of these things today. We're going to skip what the MPO is, because that's probably going to remain consistent. We're going to skip the federal regulations that we're required to cover within the plan. That's something that we have separately vetted, make sure we're still current. We're going to focus briefly on goals and principles. We're going to walk through our adoption and amendment processes, and we're going to just kind of go through very briefly the various ways in which we reach out to the public. All right, next slide, please. So this right now is a statement of our goals. This is saying when we involve the public, why it's important, and the things that we should take into consideration when we do that. It's kind of a wall of text, but it is very important and critical to decision making on subject matter that affects as many people's daily lives as transportation does. It's very important that we make our decisions not only with subject matter experts, but also with the people who are impacted by those decisions. And that is what this generally states. All right, next slide, please. These are our principles. These are going to be a little bit more of a bullet list of just what's important to take into consideration as we engage in our public involvement endeavors. Next slide, please. So this is a list, document by document, explaining very briefly what each one is, what it does, and how long we need to keep our public involvement period open prior to the adoption of each document, just how long each public comment period needs to be. Generally speaking, we range between 30 days and 45 days. There's a couple where it just says either regularly, or in the case of our annual listing of obligated projects, we just have to make that list publicly available within 90 days of the end of the year. So on this slide, we have several of our major documents, and most of these are a 30-day public involvement window. Next slide. And then, so here are more of our documents. So this covers everything we do. This covers the two documents where we are deciding on what projects to pursue as a region and when. These cover just the planning activities, the things that staff is going to do each fiscal year. This covers our transportation conformity and congestion management plan endeavors, and also the public participation plan itself is on this slide. What's notable is a public participation plan is a 45-day public comment period, as opposed to most other things which have the 30-day. And we anticipate for this the 2024 public participation plan, we're planning to run that public comment period between July and August of this year. All right, next slide, please. All right, so that covers adoption. That covers when we have a brand new document like the 2025 to 2028 TIP that we have just brought through the process. This is when we have existing documents that between their required updates have changes. You see these pretty much every meeting in terms of the TIP and the MTP. Just a project has changed, money, its year, et cetera. It needs to come before the board for its approval. So we organize within the public participation plan tiers of amendment. So the ones that you guys see, generally speaking, that's going to be tier 1 primary amendments. These are things that require formal action for the board in order to make that change. These are generally going to be content changes to projects and to documents. Tier 2 is going to be content also, but it's going to be more minor. We're going to get into in the following slides just what the current thresholds are for each. But like a tier 1 change would be something is moving into the TIP years when it wasn't before, or it's a brand new project getting added. And a tier 2 change would be it was in 2025, now it's in 2026, or its control number changed, you know, something like that. Tier 3 is our grammatical and formatting tier. We're not going to necessarily go over that today. We can certainly bring it back if you wish, but this is, you know, if we discover a typo that needs to get fixed within the document, that's the procedures governing how that's going to work, and it's administrative. So right now, we do not differentiate within the plan the criteria and process for any of the following documents. So this is for the MTP, for the TIP, for the unit, for the planning work program, for the congestion management plan, or for the PPP. So right now it's uniform criteria for everything. All right, next slide, please. And that's something to kind of keep in mind as we discuss the criteria and the proposed changes that staff recommends. Okay, and so these are the formal criteria. Just the thesis statement here is the criteria are project-based and they represent more significant changes. And this is the list of them. And then, next slide, please. These are going to be the tier 2 changes. These are going to be things that are, you know, project increased, but only by, or the funding for a project increased, but only by a little bit, like something like that. And then, next slide, please. So this here is what staff recommends changing in the next version. So for one thing, we do recommend differentiating criteria between the different types of documents. All of the criteria right now pretty much are project-based, but we have documents that are not project-based, like our public participation plan, like our unified planning work program, and it can be a little tricky to figure out how to apply, you know, the project-based criteria to those documents. So we do recommend creating separate criteria that apply to the different types of documents so that it's clearer to tell what level of change reaches which threshold. We also, in certain cases, note that the language is a little bit subjective, and so maybe making it a little bit clearer, or if it's based on a federal or state rule, to spell that out within this plan. And then one thing that we kind of wanted to see if there was an appetite for, and we're happy to go either way on that, but we don't currently have a consent agenda for TPAC or for TPB. And if there were items that this body wanted to maybe routinely see as consent and just pull off when something seemed particularly interesting or controversial, that is something that we can also create procedures for within our public participation plan. For instance, letters of support, or you know, changes to Appendix D of the TIP, which is the one where we say projects that are coming in future beyond the TIP years, and just changes to that. So those are basically, that's what we had noted thus far as things we would like to pursue as changes in the amendment. And then if we move on, the following slides just focus on the various ways in which we reach out to people. And we only really have one change to those, which is on our social media. We have an Instagram. Our public participation plan doesn't list our Instagram. And we have 2 slides that are within your backup that explain when we have a public meeting what we need to take into consideration in order just for the venue, things like ADA concerns, for just making sure that we're taking consideration to get as wide a variety of the public able to participate in our document review as possible. If you guys have interest in seeing those, I'm happy to share with you, but I know that you guys have been sitting here for quite a while. So if you don't want to line by line all of the various things that are kind of, spelled out in the slides and in the plan, happy to skip.
Send them via Instagram if you don't mind.
There we go.
We have a question.
On the threshold, does that mean it doesn't say 30-day required? And you want to put it in, or what do you mean by?
That would mean more like, for things where we want to just make the language clearer, right now the category, for a tier 1 amendment, it says like a significant increase in funding. And we do have rules that we follow that define what significant means. But if you're trying to find that out real quick, and this is the first place you look, it does not have it.
Oh, so dollar thresholds.
Yeah, dollars or percentages, things like that. And we also, just because, like, if we want to add something to the UPWP and it requires a change in task language, it's really difficult to apply. The project limits are changing, the project scope is changing. It's really, really difficult to apply those criteria to figure out how we need to amend our task-based plan as opposed to our project-based plan. So we want to create just, okay, what sort of changes to the UPWP itself would trigger a major amendment as opposed to a minor one?
Hernandez.
Is this only for public participation component, or will this change, your recommendations also impact the way items are being proposed to this body? Because is this like only at the TPAC level?
This would be both for TPAC and TPB. This is just when someone brings forward a change, like in the case of the TIP or the MTP, that would be an entity reaching out to us to say, we're adding a project, we're changing a project, et cetera. For UPWP, it would be, we've become aware of another funding source, another task that needs to be completed. For the conformity report, it would follow an MTP amendment where, capacity was changing. So this is basically saying what sorts of changes, as time progresses and as, we become aware that what's in our existing documents isn't necessarily the most current and up to date. When do we bring it back to you guys? When do we just do it as an administrative amendment? It's not necessarily what do we base the criteria for our recommendation on, but just when do we know that we need to bring it to you so that you can vote on what we're doing as a region.
Yeah, and the reason why I asked is because there's been several items that come here that haven't gone to TPAC.
Okay.
So, and I think that's, problematic because it's like, well, what was TPAC's recommendation? And like, it came straight to you. So I think that is a conversation we need to have, but I think that we need to stay true because we often have these conversations and then TPAC never gets an opportunity to review. And so if we're going to put together that criteria, then we need to stick to it is my point, because we've had these conversations in the past and we don't stick to it.
Yeah, and generally when that happens, it's because we've become aware of a change that a local entity wants to make quickly. And in order to get on the next quarterly amendment cycle or something, it would create problems with the timeline if we were to wait until the next month's TPAC. It would be.
I totally get that. So that needs to be addressed in this document. Otherwise, we just are violating our own policies. And so that was my only question, is that anytime it's related to funding and a project within someone's jurisdiction, whichever it is, there should be a TPAC recommendation. It should come back to TVP. You could put a threshold of an amount.
Yeah.
Amendment. It should be on the consent agenda. Otherwise, and that's what, the way we see it on city council, if it goes over a certain amount, it needs to come to city council for approval. And if there's questions that we have to ask, and you pull it from the consent and you put it on the regular agenda.
Yeah.
As opposed to just administrative approval. But having those criteria that triggers it to go to the regular agenda, I think is appropriate.
Yeah, and right now, we only have regular, we don't have consent yet, but if there was a certain thing, it's like, yes, technically it exceeds the threshold, but we don't necessarily feel that we need a presentation on it. And then it can get pulled off consent, same as items that go before council, because there is a particular need to discuss, or one of the board members does want to see the presentation and want to have an individual discussion on that particular item.
I would just like to see the plan.
Yeah,
Second reading.
absolutely.
If I can just clarify a little bit on, I shouldn't say most, but all items related to the TIP amendments and all that go to TPAC. It's only a very few that don't. I think, some of the questions that we had in a couple of meetings ago about the task orders for the consultants and all that, we'll be more than happy to take them to TPAC as well. But just one more comment about the public participation plan. What we're trying to do here is also be consistent, but at the same time balance practicality, expediency with, transparency and making sure that we're doing the right thing in terms of informing. The thing about administrative amendments to the TIP, that's one typical thing. There are certain things that we can do. For example, move a project from one year to another within the TIP years. That we could do an administrative amendment without having to do anything. And in fact, technically not even informing the board, right? But I don't think that's appropriate. Changing years is, could have some implications as well on funding and so on. So that's why we've been trying to bring these administrative amendments reports to the board, on a regular basis, or maybe what we need to do if it's necessary to, be on the safe side and bring all amendments to the board, make sure that the board is informed and vote on them, even if technically we could do them as administrative amendments. So it's, it's one of the balancing acts that we have to play with.
I guess I'm not understanding. So this public participation plan applies to this board? No.
It applies to the MPO in general. How we do our public participation plan as an MPO, right? So, for example,
Whether you bring it to us or not is considered public participation. You don't have a separate document of standard and operating procedure. This is it. So, okay.
right. But at the same time, and I was going to bring that up, there are some things that may not necessarily need to be identified in the public participation plan to that level of detail, but we can agree to have them of standard operating procedures for the MPO, right? So.
But you don't right now have a SOP separate.
No, but it's one of the things that we are looking in the immediate future to start, not just for this, but in general, having a list of SOPs, of standard operating procedures, or everything that the MPO does. So this is the public participation plan is a federal requirement. So we need to have a triple P, right?
It's got an odd name for when it.
We don't get to pick.
You didn't get to pick.
Any questions? Thank you.
All right, so the last item is the executive director's report. I just have a couple of things to report to you all. Where are we? Okay, so we have had we've been invited actually, and we're very happy to participate with a couple of initiatives on the New Mexico side. Doña Ana County started their own Safe Streets for All program to also develop a safety action plan. So of course, there's overlap because the MPO area covers some areas of Doña Ana County as well. So they're starting theirs. We're going to start ours, and that's great that we have that coordination. Also, the Regional Infrastructure Accelerator project that Doña Ana County was awarded a grant to develop this. We had a kickoff meeting with their consultant team as well, and we're more than happy to help with a lot of the modeling that we have developed here to help with looking at how Doña Ana County can improve the economic development opportunities for them. So that was one of the great things. Not listed here, but also wanted to mention that we also participated with the city of El Paso in the kickoff for the new master plan for the city. Again, with the urban sim land use model that we have developed, that we've been developing with the TCEQ Rider 7. We offered that along with our other travel demand models and so on to help the city with developing the plan. So excited to be able to use our tools to help with the planning for the region. The next thing, the Texas Transportation Commission meeting of last month, several of us were there, and thanks for those that participated. Thanks to the chamber as well for coordinating several people going to provide comments. Specifically, I was there also to speak in favor of the Village of Vinton's SIB loan application for their Valley Chili project, which is, again, one of the really cool coordination efforts that we have here in the region, and I emphasize that to the commission. Typically we go out there and we talk about our multi-million-dollar projects and the hundreds of millions of dollars of projects and so on. But this is a project that is about $9 to $10 million for the Village of Vinton. The MPO is contributing $7 million for the roadway improvements. They combined it also with another grant to provide water and sewage services for the community. So it's going to be all tied into one project. Wonderful coordination with the county, the RMA, the MPO providing the funding. So I wanted to highlight that to the commission. And of course, then we talked to the commission about the fiscal year 25 UTP and all that. And again, just to let you know that we did submit the application for the mega grant. The MPO and TxDOT going in as co-applicants. That application was submitted before the May 6th deadline, I believe it was. And important that close to 75 letters of support were collected for that effort. So great, another example of really good coordination here locally and for the region.
Total amount requested?
I'm sorry?
Total amount requested?
The total amount was 720 some million. I'll give you the exact number. Different from last year. For this application, the cost estimate, the total construction cost estimate was updated. And I don't know, Raul, if you have the numbers on the top of your head.
743.9 million.
743.
But I think it was more than 80 letters now.
In total, yeah. Yeah. So when we submitted this, yeah, but we got between the ones that were collected by the chamber, the delegation and individual members of different local governments as well. Yeah, it's over 80.
The 743 was the amount requested. And what did you say the construction cost? The new construction?
The total construction cost is $1.2 billion in change. And again, we can give you the exact, the numbers that were included in the proposal with a caveat that this is still, the TxDOT is still working on the schematic, but this is a more realistic estimate than the $750 million that we've been talking about in the past. And that's all I have. Happy to answer any questions if you have any.
I just wanted to say thank you for all of your hard work, and you're going up in the next year, so we really have a lot of discussion, but you're doing a great job, and I look forward to working with you and after next year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you again for my personal stuff. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? We don't have forums, though. This weekend. We can make it.
Marisol, can we?